Think about this moment right now. How many people do you believe are actively praying for your happiness, for your healing, for your success, for your peace of mind? Now let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. When was the last time you truly, deeply, intentionally prayed for yourself? Not a quick, help me get through this day prayer. Not a desperate plea when everything is falling apart. But a real, devoted, loving prayer for your own well-being, your own growth, your own sacred worth. If you're struggling to remember, you're not alone. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for someone else to pray for them, to wish them well, to hold space for their dreams. They pray for their children, their parents, their friends, their community. Everyone except the one person who needs their prayers most desperately. But here's the truth that will shake you to your core. No one else can pray for you the way you can pray for yourself. And if you don't start doing it, a part of your soul will remain starved, no matter how much love surrounds you. What I'm about to reveal in the next 20 minutes will completely transform your relationship with prayer, with yourself, and with the divine force that flows through your life. This isn't just about spiritual practice. This is about survival, growth, and stepping into the full power of who you were meant to become. And the most life-changing insight? It's coming at the very end, so stay with me. Welcome to Daily Prayer, a sacred sanctuary of faith, hope, and daily inspiration, created for souls who are ready to stop abandoning themselves and start becoming their own greatest advocate, their own most devoted supporter, their own most powerful prayer warrior. If this message is already stirring something deep within you, please subscribe to Daily Prayer, hit that like button, and share this with someone who has been waiting their entire life for permission to love themselves this completely. Your engagement helps us reach more hearts that are quietly starving for their own attention. And please comment below. Tell us one thing you're going to start praying for yourself. Your words might inspire someone else to finally put themselves on their own prayer list. Now let me share something with you that changed everything for me. I spent years praying for other people. I lit candles for my family's health. I begged for my friends' happiness. I interceded for strangers I'd never meet. My prayer life was rich, devoted, consistent. But there was one person completely absent from my prayers: me. Not because I was humble, not because I was selfless, but because I had been taught that praying for yourself was selfish, that good people focus on others, that spiritual people put themselves last, that asking for your own happiness was somehow less holy than asking for everyone else's. This is the lie that keeps millions of souls spiritually malnourished while they feed everyone around them. The lie that says self-love is narcissism. The lie that says self-care is selfishness. The lie that says you must earn your right to your own prayers through service to others. But what if I told you that the most generous thing you can do for the world is to pray yourself into wholeness? What if your neglect of your own spiritual well-being is actually the most selfish thing you could do? Think about it like this. Imagine you're responsible for tending a garden. You water all the plants around yours. You give them sunlight, nutrients, care, attention. But your own plant, the one that could grow into something magnificent, the one that could produce fruit to feed others, the one that could offer shade and beauty to the world, you let it wither. Is that generosity, or is that waste? Your soul is not separate from the divine ecosystem of love in this universe. When you starve it of prayer, of attention, of spiritual nourishment, you're not just harming yourself. You're depriving the world of who you could become with proper care. The person you could be if you prayed for yourself with the same devotion you pray for others. That person has gifts to offer that the current version of you cannot access. That person has wisdom to share that can only come from a soul that has been deeply loved by its own prayers. That person has a capacity for service that is exponentially greater because it flows from fullness, not from emptiness trying to fill others. But here's what happens when you start praying for yourself, really praying for yourself, and it might surprise you. You don't become more selfish. You become more genuinely generous. You don't become self-absorbed. You become self-aware. You don't become narcissistic. You become authentic. Because When you know what it feels like to receive love, including your own love, you can give love from a place of overflow rather than depletion. When you know what it feels like to be held in prayer, including your own prayers, you can hold others with genuine presence rather than desperate need for validation. This is why every spiritual tradition, when you dig beneath the surface interpretations, teaches some form of self-compassion. Not because spiritual teachers were promoting selfishness, but because they understood something profound. You cannot give what you do not have. You cannot love others more than you love yourself for any sustained period without becoming resentful, exhausted, or spiritually bankrupt. The prayer, "Love thy neighbor as thyself," isn't just telling you to love others. It's assuming you already know how to love yourself. It's taking for granted that you treat yourself with kindness, patience, forgiveness, and care. Because if you don't, then loving others as yourself becomes a recipe for dysfunction, not devotion. So when was the last time you looked in the mirror and spoke to yourself with the same tenderness you would offer a dear friend who was struggling? When was the last time you forgave yourself as quickly as you forgive others? When was the last time you celebrated your small victories with the same enthusiasm you show for other people's achievements? Here's what I discovered when I finally started including myself in my own prayers, and it's going to sound almost too simple to be true. Everything changed, not just my spiritual life, but my relationships, my work, my health, even my ability to sleep at night. Because when you start praying for yourself with genuine love, something miraculous happens in your nervous system. Your body stops living in a constant state of vigilance, waiting for someone else to notice your needs, to validate your worth, to give you permission to rest. You become your own safe harbor, your own sanctuary, your own source of the very comfort you've been desperately seeking from others. But let me be very clear about something, because this is where most people get confused about self-prayer. I'm not talking about praying for things. I'm not talking about asking for a better job, a perfect relationship, or winning the lottery. That's still transactional thinking, using prayer like a cosmic shopping list. I'm talking about praying for who you are becoming, praying for your courage to grow, praying for your heart to stay soft in a hard world, praying for your wisdom to deepen, praying for your capacity to love and be loved to expand. I'm talking about the kind of prayer that says, "Divine love that flows through all things, help me see myself through your eyes. Help me treat myself with the same compassion I would offer my own child. Help me forgive my mistakes as opportunities for growth rather than evidence of my unworthiness." This is the prayer that your soul has been waiting its entire existence to hear. Not from someone else's lips, but from yours. Because here's what no one tells you about the spiritual journey. The voice that has the most power to heal you, to transform you, to set you free, is your own voice speaking love back to yourself. Think about this for a moment. Every harsh word you've ever said to yourself, your soul heard it. Every time you called yourself stupid, weak, unworthy, too much, not enough, your inner being absorbed that violence. Every time you treated yourself with less kindness than you would treat a stranger, your spirit felt that rejection. But now imagine this. Every loving word you speak to yourself, your soul receives as prayer. Every moment of self-compassion becomes a healing balm for wounds you didn't even know existed. Every act of self-forgiveness becomes a miracle your heart has been waiting for. You are not just the one who prays. You are also the one being prayed for. You are both the temple and the one who tends the temple. You are both the garden and the gardener. And until you understand this, you will always be spiritually homeless, even in the most loving community. Let me guide you through something right now. Close your eyes if you can. Place one hand on your heart, one hand on your stomach. Feel the life force moving through your body. This is sacred energy. This is divine breath animating human form. This is miracle wrapped in skin. Now speak to this body that has carried you through every single day of your existence. Thank it, not for being perfect, but for being persistent. Not for never breaking down, but for always finding ways to heal. Not for meeting impossible standards, but for housing your soul through every storm you've weathered. Say these words, either aloud or in the silence of your heart. Thank you, my body, for never giving up on me, even when I gave up on you. Thank you for healing cuts I never remembered getting. Thank you for beating my heart while I slept. Thank you for breathing me through anxiety attacks. Thank you for carrying me to every person I was meant to love and every experience I was meant to have. Feel that for a moment. Notice what happens in your chest when you speak to yourself as if you matter. Because you do matter. Not because of what you accomplish, not because of who loves you, not because of how useful you are to others. You matter because you exist, because consciousness chose to experience itself as you, because divine love decided the world needed exactly who you are. Now let's go deeper. What part of yourself have you been most critical of lately? What aspect of your personality, your appearance, your history, your choices have you been treating as an enemy instead of as part of your wholeness? Instead of trying to change it, pray for it. Pray for that anxious part of you that's just trying to keep you safe. Pray for that angry part of you that's protecting boundaries you didn't even know you had. Pray for that sad part of you that's grieving losses others might not understand. Pray for that scared part of you that's doing its best to navigate an uncertain world. These aren't flaws to fix. These are parts of yourself that need your own compassion, your own understanding, your own prayers. They're not obstacles to your spiritual growth. They're the very places where your spiritual growth is most needed and most possible. Here's what happens when you start praying for every part of yourself with genuine love. You stop needing other people to complete you because you start experiencing yourself as already complete. You stop looking for validation from the outside because you start providing validation from within. You stop abandoning yourself the moment things get difficult because you've learned how to be your own faithful companion. And this is when the most beautiful paradox occurs. The more you learn to truly love yourself through prayer, the more love you have available for others. Not needy love, not desperate love, not love that requires constant reassurance, but abundant love that flows from a source that never runs dry because it's constantly being replenished by your own devotion to your own well-being. Now I need to tell you about the prayer that changed my life completely. And it's probably going to surprise you because it's nothing like what you'd expect a life-changing prayer to sound like. I was sitting in my car after one of the hardest days I'd had in months. Everything felt wrong. I felt like a failure as a friend, as a partner, as a human being trying to make sense of this complicated world. And in that moment of complete exhaustion, instead of praying for strength to keep going, I prayed something different. I said, "I'm sorry I've been so hard on you. You've been trying so hard, and instead of encouraging you, I've been criticizing every move you make. You deserve better from me. You deserve my kindness, not my judgment. You deserve my patience, not my frustration. Starting right now, I'm going to treat you the way I would treat someone I truly love. Because that's what you are, someone I should truly love." That was it. No fancy words, no theological concepts. Just a simple apology to myself for the years of internal violence I had been carrying as normal. And something shifted in that moment that I can only describe as coming home to myself. For the first time in my adult life, I felt what it was like to have my own support, my own approval, my own unconditional presence. I wasn't alone anymore, even when I was completely alone. This is what I want you to understand about praying for yourself. It's not about asking for external changes. It's about creating internal shifts that change how you experience everything external. When you pray for your own happiness, you're not asking life to hand you happiness on a silver platter. You're asking for the wisdom to recognize the happiness that's already available to you in small moments, in simple pleasures, in the miracle of your own existence. When you pray for your own peace, you're not asking for a life without problems. You're asking for the strength to remain centered in the midst of chaos, to find stillness even when everything around you is moving too fast. When you pray for your own healing, you're not necessarily asking for physical ailments to disappear. You're asking for the grace to relate to your body, your emotions, your circumstances with compassion instead of resistance. This is the prayer practice I want to teach you right now, and I want you to try it with me. It's called the prayer of sacred self-advocacy, and it goes like this. Take a deep breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your body in the chair or wherever you're sitting. Feel yourself fully present in this moment. Now speak these words as if you're speaking to your dearest friend. Beautiful soul that lives within this body, I see how hard you've been trying. I see how much you care about doing the right thing, about loving well, about making a positive difference in this world. I see how you carry the pain of others, how you lose sleep worrying about people you love, how you blame yourself for things that were never your fault. I want you to know that you are not responsible for fixing everyone's problems. You are not responsible for making everyone else happy. You are not responsible for being perfect so that others feel comfortable around you. Your job is to show up authentically, to love from your genuine heart, and to take care of the precious life you've been given. Your job is to honor the divine spark within you by treating yourself with sacred respect. I pray for your courage to say no when you mean no. I pray for your wisdom to recognize your own needs as valid. I pray for your strength to set boundaries that protect your energy for what matters most. I pray for your healing from the wounds that taught you that your worth depends on your usefulness to others. I pray that you remember you are not too much for the right people. You are not too sensitive for this world. You are not broken beyond repair. You are a soul having a human experience, and that experience includes both suffering and joy, both struggle and grace, both questions and revelations. I pray that you forgive yourself for every mistake you made while you were learning how to be human. I pray that you celebrate every small victory, every moment of growth, every time you chose love over fear, even when no one else noticed. Most of all, I pray that you never again abandon yourself in order to earn someone else's approval. Because your approval is the only one you truly need to live a life that feels authentic and fulfilling. Breathe with that for a moment. Feel what happens in your body when someone, even if it's you, speaks to you with that level of care, that level of recognition, that level of unconditional support. This is what your soul has been craving, not to be fixed, but to be loved exactly as you are while you're growing into who you're meant to become. Now here's what I've discovered happens when you make this kind of self-prayer a regular practice. You stop looking for someone else to be your savior because you've learned how to save yourself from the cruelest voice in your life, your own inner critic. You stop waiting for permission to live fully because you've given yourself permission to take up space, to have needs, to pursue what brings you joy, even if others don't understand it. You stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable because you've realized that your authenticity is a gift to the world, not a burden for it to bear. But most importantly, you start attracting relationships and opportunities that match your new level of self-respect. Because when you treat yourself as sacred, others learn to treat you as sacred too. When you speak to yourself with love, others hear that frequency and respond to it. The world will mirror back to you exactly how you relate to yourself. This is why praying for yourself isn't selfish, it's essential. It's not vanity, it's spiritual hygiene. It's not self-indulgence, it's self-preservation in the deepest, most sacred sense. And now we've arrived at the revelation I promised would change everything. The truth that will transform not just how you pray, but how you exist in this world as a conscious, powerful, divinely connected being. Here it is. You are not just someone who needs prayers. You are someone whose very existence is a prayer. Your life, your breath, your presence, your unique way of moving through this world, all of it is a continuous prayer that the universe is constantly receiving and responding to. But here's the crucial part. If you're not consciously praying for yourself, if you're not actively loving yourself, if you're not intentionally supporting your own growth and well-being, then the prayer of your existence becomes a prayer of self-abandonment. And the universe, which always says yes to whatever prayer you're living, responds by bringing you experiences of abandonment. This is why you keep attracting relationships where you give more than you receive. This is why you keep finding yourself in situations where your needs are ignored or minimized. This is why you feel exhausted even when you're helping others. You're unconsciously praying the prayer of unworthiness, and life is faithfully delivering exactly what you're asking for. But the moment you start consciously praying for yourself, loving yourself, supporting yourself, advocating for yourself, you begin to live a different prayer. A prayer of worthiness, a prayer of self-respect, a prayer that says, I am valuable, I matter, I deserve love and care, including my own. And the universe, which is always listening, always responding, begins to reorganize itself around this new prayer. Opportunities appear that honor your worth. Relationships develop that reflect your self-respect. Circumstances shift to support the person you're becoming through your own loving attention. This is the secret that spiritual teachers throughout history have tried to convey. You are not separate from the divine creative force of the universe. You are that force expressing itself as a unique human experience. And how you treat yourself is how you teach that force to flow through your life. When you pray for yourself with genuine love, you're not being selfish. You're being collaborative with the very source of all existence. You're saying, use me, work through me. But first, let me create the internal conditions that allow your love to flow through me without obstruction. This is why no one else can pray for you the way you can pray for yourself. Because no one else has access to the internal landscape where your relationship with the divine actually occurs. No one else can shift the fundamental frequency from which you operate in the world. I want to give you one final prayer practice, and this one is the most powerful of all. It's the practice that will transform you from someone who occasionally prays for themselves into someone who lives their entire life as a prayer of self-love in action. Every morning when you wake up, before you check your phone, before you think about your to-do list, before you start planning how you're going to take care of everyone else, I want you to place your hands on your heart and say, "Good morning, beloved. Thank you for another day to experience life through your eyes, to love through your heart, to serve through your unique gifts. Today, I commit to treating you with the same reverence I would show to any sacred being. I commit to speaking to you with kindness, to honoring your needs, to celebrating your growth, and to forgiving your humanness. If I get overwhelmed today, I will remind you that you're doing your best. If I make mistakes today, I will remind you that mistakes are how souls learn. If others treat you poorly today, I will remind you that their behavior reflects their relationship with themselves, not your worth. I am your faithful companion, your devoted advocate, your most loyal friend. You will never walk alone, because I am always here with you, for you, believing in you even when you forget to believe in yourself. Let's make today beautiful together. This is the prayer that changes everything. Not because it changes your circumstances, but because it changes you. And when you change, your entire world changes with you. Now here's what I know will happen if you commit to this practice. Within 30 days, you will notice that you feel less desperate for other people's approval because you're receiving consistent approval from the most important person in your life, you. Within 60 days, you will notice that you attract different kinds of relationships because you're operating from a different frequency. The frequency of someone who knows their worth and expects to be treated accordingly. Within 90 days, you will look back on the person you were before you started, praying for yourself, and you will feel deep compassion for how hard they were trying to earn love from the outside when the most transformative love was available from within all along. This is not a temporary practice. This is a way of life. This is how you heal not just yourself, but every relationship you touch, every room you enter, every person you encounter. Because healed people heal people, loved people love people, and people who know how to pray for themselves become living prayers of possibility for everyone around them. If you've stayed with me through this entire message, it means you're ready. Ready to stop abandoning yourself. Ready to start including yourself on your own prayer list. Ready to become your own greatest love story. Write in the comments, I am worthy of my own prayers. I need to see how many of us are making this commitment together. Your comment might be the permission someone else needs to finally start loving themselves the way they've been loving everyone else. And if this message has awakened something in your soul, please share it with someone who has been waiting their whole life to hear that they matter enough to pray for themselves. Subscribe to Daily Prayer for daily reminders that your relationship with yourself is the most important relationship you'll ever have. Remember, pray for yourself, love yourself, support yourself, because no one else can do it the way you can. And the world needs who you become when you finally give yourself the love you've been freely giving to everyone else. Your life is a prayer. Make sure it's a prayer of love.